In the age-old obsession to pack on muscle, there have been some pretty out there methods used to put on mass. A lot of them have been cast aside as science has progressed, but there are a few that actually do work. The methods that work have been verified by current research, and by trying them, as strange as they might sound, it could help you break through a plateau and build muscle much faster. So today I want to go over 5 of these very odd muscle building strategies. You'll find that some of these are effective and may be worth incorporating into your routine, while others are simply not worth your time and effort. Let's jump right in with our very first strange way to build muscle, which is a program that was popular about 20 years ago, but you don't really hear about it anymore. It's called Escalated Density Training. Escalated density training goes counter to the traditional sets and reps model by focusing on total time spent working out and the total amount of reps performed. It was made popular by Dr. Charles Staley, and EDT is based on the principle that the workout protocol that encourages you to do the most amount of work in a set amount of time will lead to maximum muscle growth. So if you are able to do more work in the same amount of time that you spent the last time you trained, you'll build more muscle. Here's how it works. Your workout would consist of 20-minute phases that are separated by 5 to 10-minute recovery periods. During each 20-minute phase, you would perform 2 exercises for 2 opposing muscle groups. Some examples of opposing muscle groups are chest and back, biceps and triceps, and quads and hamstrings. So you would move back and forth between the 2 exercises without any rest. As you go through the workout, you would tally the total number of reps performed in each exercise. And in your next workout, your goal is to perform more reps than you did the last time. After you've finished each 20-minute phase, you would rest for 5 to 10 minutes, and then you'd perform another 20-minute work phase with 2 exercises for 2 other opposing body parts. Make sure you select a weight that will allow you to do 10 reps, but no more. You also don't want your early sets to lead you to failure. In fact, for the first few sets, you should feel as if you still have 1 more left in the tank as you perform the last rep before switching to the second exercise. Your first few sets should be in the 10 rep range, and as you keep going back and forth, you'll find that your rep count continues to drop until you're barely able to squeeze out 2 or 3 reps as the 20-minute time limit approaches. The other interesting thing about EDT is that it doesn't involve the traditional mass building exercises like squats and deadlifts. That's because the back and forth training style fatigues you so much that it would become pretty unsafe to be squatting beyond the 15th minute of this type of training. The main scientific evidence behind this method is the concept of time under tension and the increased muscular stress that comes from taking shorter rest periods. It's an interesting method that can work effectively as part of an overall plan. Its main caveat is that it leaves out the foundational compound moves, and there's no doubt that exercises like squats and deadlifts are important for building muscle. But rotating this style of training for 6 weeks on and off with a more traditional mass building program could prove to be very effective. Up next, we have strange muscle building method number 2, restricted blood flow training. While it may sound pretty dangerous, when done properly, it's actually a very safe technique. You're essentially restricting the blood flow to the muscle group that's being worked in order to build more muscle while using lighter weights. Now, that seems pretty strange considering that there's a whole supplement industry built around speeding up blood flow to the muscle by increasing nitric oxide production. But it's important to note that you don't completely cut off blood flow. When done correctly, the blood flow to the veins becomes restricted, but not the blood flow to the arteries. That means that blood is still coming in, but not going out. This results in a massive buildup of blood in the muscle being worked. So really, when you get to the bottom of it, there are 3 ways that this process can help speed up muscle growth. The first thing you'll notice is a mind-blowing pump. Your cells will be so engorged with blood that they'll be more likely to grow. The second thing that'll happen is that the oxygen supply to the muscle will become more restricted. This will force your body to recruit more fast-twitch muscle fibers. Working these fast-twitch fibers will promote more muscle growth. Finally, the low oxygen levels lead to higher levels of lactic acid. High lactic acid levels have been shown to enhance protein synthesis. Now, to perform this type of training, you would wrap a tourniquet around the limb that you're trying to work. You would typically wrap it either at the top of the thigh or the top of the upper arm. It should be tied at around a 7 out of 10 level in terms of tightness. You would then perform a number of high rep sets in the 10 to 20 rep range, and these sets would be separated by 30-second periods of rest. So you're probably wondering, how effective is it? Well, a study in 2012 had subjects performing blood flow restriction training with low weight loads that were well below what they'd usually be lifting. Despite the fact that lower intensity training typically builds a lot less muscle than higher intensity training, they were able to make significant muscle gains. BFR training is definitely worth trying, but you should keep a couple things in mind. First of all, it only works when you're training your limbs, so your arms and your legs. When performing exercises with your limbs wrapped, you'll want to make sure that you're using a weight that's quite a bit lower than what you're typically used to using for that exercise. I recommend you start with 30 to 40% less weight than you're normally used to. It should work as long as it's also interchanged with sessions involving more heavy compound work. Next, we have the third strange muscle building method, and this one comes from the most out there, radical, anti-establishment trainer in the history of building muscle, the original iron guru, Vince Gironda. Vince was very popular in the 60s when he had a gym in Los Angeles. His gym rules were pretty unique: no squatting, no bench pressing, and no barbell curls. If you even looked like you were gonna do any one of those exercises, Vince would boot you out. The strange thing was that Vince's gym was producing guys with outstanding physiques, yet they weren't doing any of the stock standard exercises that everyone else was. So what were they doing? Well, one of the training methods that Vince taught was doing front squats instead of back squats. Vince considered back squats to be a glute building movement, while the front version put much more stress and emphasis on the quads, which he thought was more important. He also had all of his guys doing sissy squats, which is actually where that name came from. And it's not because they were performed by wimps, but instead because they caused big, strong former back squatters to turn into sissies. Another interesting thing that he did was, instead of the bench press, Vince had his guys doing the neck press, which is also known as the guillotine press. You can't use as much weight as you would with a regular bench press, but Vince was convinced that it would reduce the involvement of the front delt and place all the weight on the pecs. Also, when performing the neck press, he stressed the importance of keeping your elbows flared back. He also had everyone do pull-ups differently. When doing pull-ups, Vince would make his trainees bring their chest all the way up to the bar. To count as just one rep, the lower part of the chest had to touch the bar. And if you think that's easy, I challenge even those of you that are advanced to try to do even one. He believed that this produced greater recruitment of the lats. Another method he incorporated was, instead of the barbell curl, he had his guys doing body drag curls. This involves dragging the bar up your body while keeping your elbows back as much as you can. Another thing that I was very happy to hear was that high rep ab training was a big no-no for Vince. He believed that the abs should be trained with the same set and rep scheme as any other body part. This is something that I strongly agree with. A final unique method that Vince stressed was diaphragmatic breathing, which involved taking 6 deep breaths through pursed lips in a bent over position, and this was to be done between sets. He believed that this would fast track oxygen to the working muscle groups. According to him, 6 deep diaphragmatic breaths is all the rest that you need between sets. Vince didn't produce any scientific research to back up his claims. Instead, he pointed to the physiques of the guys who were training according to his methodology. I suggest giving his methods a try, at least for a couple weeks, to incorporate something new and to confuse your body. If they work for you, keep them. If not, go back to what you were doing. Let's move on to strange muscle building method number 4, which is soul visualization training. Now, you might already know that visualization is used by a lot of athletes, including bodybuilders and powerlifters, to psych themselves up for their workout. But the advocates of soul visualization training believe that you can actually build muscle by doing nothing other than just thinking about it. No training, no increased protein intake, just sitting around and thinking about getting more muscular. Now, I know this might sound ridiculous, but the concept of building muscle by just thinking about it is based on a study that came out a number of years ago. In this study, participants were split into 3 groups: a control group that didn't exercise and didn't think about working out at all, a workout group that was training 3 times a week for 2 weeks, and a group that didn't physically exercise at all, but instead visualized working out for 2 weeks. When the results came in, as anticipated, the control group showed no improvement in muscle gain. The workout group increased their strength by 28.3%, but the amazing thing was that the visualization group had increased 23.7% in strength. So what can we say about all this? Well, first of all, it's important to note that the study didn't measure changes in muscle size, but instead it just measured changes in strength. However, we do know that strength and muscle gains They go hand in hand. The big problem is that the study was only done over a period of 2 weeks, and that's simply too short of an interval to reveal any meaningful gains. Regardless, what it does show is that the mind does indeed play an important role in the muscle building process. Visualizing your workout before you head to the gym by imagining yourself smashing out your exercises and then actually doing it can help you to build muscle faster, but it's very unlikely that you'll get real, long-lasting benefits from doing nothing other than just thinking about it. So let's move on to our final strange muscle building method, which takes us back to the early 1900s, before they had gym accessories like squat racks or power racks. The back squat wasn't a popular exercise back then, but other forms of squats were. The deep knee bend, for example, has been used for cardio as well as leg development for hundreds of years. When the kettlebell was introduced in the late 1800s, people began to do squats with the kettlebell held in each hand at shoulder level. This morphed into the goblet squat, with just one kettlebell held in front of the body. When the barbell was introduced in the early 1900s, guys started to do light back squats while standing on their tippy toes, which would be now considered very bad squat form. But soon after that, in the 1920s, flat-footed squatting became popular. With the heels firmly planted into the ground, more weight could be handled. Yet, with no racks to use, getting that weight up on your back was no easy task. It was thanks to a European weightlifter by the name of Milo Steinborn that heavy back squatting became really popular. Steinborn introduced a novel way to get the bar up into the proper back squatting position. You would approach the loaded barbell from one end as it sat on the floor. Grabbing the end of the bar in a double underhanded grip, you then walk the bar up into an upright angled position and place yourself under it so that it was resting across your shoulders. With one end of the bar still sitting on the floor, you then go down into a full squat position, balancing the bar so that it would eventually be sitting evenly across your shoulders, and then you would rise up to a standing position to start your first rep. You'd reverse this motion when finishing with your set. Then finally, in the 1930s, American bodybuilders Alan Calvert and Max Berry developed a 20-rep squat program which they claimed was the secret to massive muscle gains. These two men were the ones that invented the squat rack, which helped make setting up the ultimate quad developing exercise a whole lot safer. Ever since learning about this, I've been very grateful for squat racks because tipping a loaded barbell onto your back sounds like a recipe for disaster. Well, that's it guys. I really hope this video has helped you out. If you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe to my channel and hit that bell icon so you can be notified whenever I release more free tips and tricks just like the ones that you found in this video. Also, if you're looking for the fastest way to significantly increase muscle mass in the next 6 weeks without having to go through years of trial and error, check out my 6-week muscle building challenge. You'll get a customized meal plan. You'll also get a progressive 42-day workout plan that's designed to build muscle fast, and you'll get an accountability coach to help guide you through the entire process. The best part is, as long as you complete the entire challenge without cheating and without quitting, you can have the whole course and all the materials for free. To find out more, click the link below in the description, or you can just visit my website directly at gravitytransformation.com. I'll see you guys soon.